Incredible journey, Black CEO's hidden truth revealed after touching 5-year battle for justice. Malik Johnson stood at the precipice of change. From the bustling streets of Atlanta, where his mother's diner blasted the tempting scent of fried chicken and laughter echoed through the air, he was no ordinary young man. He was a dreamer with determination scripted in his bones, fueled by memories of his late mother, a fierce community leader and advocate for justice. Her sudden passing left a wound that throbbed deeply in his heart. Still, it ignited an unquenchable fire within him, a promise to champion her legacy, even in a world riddled with biases. At 28, Malik's vibrant dreams unfurled like the breathtaking murals that splashed color on his childhood neighborhood's walls. He found himself trekking through a prestigious business school, her words always at the forefront of his mind: "Resilience is our family's legacy." Graduating felt like planting a flag atop a mountain, yet as he stepped into the corporate world, that euphoric moment was cast in shadows. The corporate ladder, slick and shiny, was slicker with unspoken biases. Each dismissal he faced whispers that slipped through conference room doors, and dismissive glances from those in power felt like stabbing reminders of the challenges that lay ahead. But Malik was not the kind to back down. Instead, he turned his anguish into a call to action. He envisioned an initiative that would shatter the barriers of discrimination within his workplace, a vibrant tapestry of diversity that mirrored the community he cherished. Yet, as he laid out his plan, he felt the chill in the room, thick as the aroma of spices from his mother's kitchen. Resistance was palpable, the entrenched powers scoffing at his vision, their indifference cold and biting. "How can we compromise profitability?" some asked, faces frozen in disbelief. The bitter taste of rejection lingered, fueling a moment of doubt that crept into his heart. Was he fighting an unwinnable battle? But as he stood in the high-stakes meeting room, everything shifted. Malik, fueled by years of hardship and resilience, faced the corporate hierarchy, unwavering, determined. As tensions rose, a shocking revelation rattled the room: a buried history of discrimination in the company emerged, shaking the foundation of their facade. The walls of indifference began to tremble. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." Malik felt a surge of purpose as he addressed the gathered crowd. "How much longer will we let this go on?" The silence of the boardroom hung thick in the air, each pair of eyes locked on him, realization dawning like the first light of dawn. The stakes had never felt higher. The fight for justice was not merely his battle, but one for countless others yearning to be seen and heard. As he stood there, poised and passionate, Malik knew his journey was only just beginning. The weight of his community's hopes rested on his shoulders, and he was determined to honor that trust. The question lingered like a whisper on the wind: could he truly transform the very culture that had sidelined so many? All he could do was lean into the uncertainty and fight for the change that was so desperately needed. The boardroom fell silent, tension swirling like a storm inside Malik's chest. For a moment, he could hear the ghostly echoes of his mother's voice, reminding him why he had to keep pushing forward. He had always wanted to uplift others, just as she had done. This was more than a career, it was a crusade for dignity and respect. But then came the backlash. A senior executive cleared her throat, the sound sharp and cutting through the thick air. "Malik, that's quite the story you've told," she began, her tone dripping with skepticism. "But we have to consider the bottom line. This isn't charity." A wave of frustration crashed over him. How could they be so blind? It was about healing the wounds that ran through their company, acknowledging the past to pave a better future. "This isn't charity, it's smart business," he shot back, his voice steady despite the tremor of his nerves. "Diversity isn't just a trend. It increases innovation and creativity. It reflects the market you serve. A few murmurings rippled through the room, some heads slowly nodding in agreement. Perhaps he wasn't alone in this after all. The dissent didn't stop there. Another executive piped in, arms crossed tightly. We're not a social project, Malik. This isn't the place to solve societal issues. Malik felt the heat rising in his cheeks. But it is a part of our reality. As employees, we are part of society. By ignoring the issues, we only perpetuate them. A better workplace will lead to better profits. This is about unity, not divisiveness. With each word, he sensed cracks forming in the hard shell of their indifference. The walls that had felt so impenetrable began to shift. He could see some of them, even those who had initially scoffed, leaning forward, engaging. Imagine a culture where everyone can thrive, Malik continued, his heart racing, his passion evident. Imagine the employees who are no longer afraid to show their true selves. Imagine the customers who would support us, knowing that we champion equality. It's a win-win. With a deep breath, he concluded, this is our chance. Will we be the dinosaurs of the corporate world, stuck in the past? Or will we be the pioneers, leading the charge into a brighter future? The aftermath of his appeal hung in the air like the end of a concert, anticipation crackling like electricity. The variety of reactions played across the room, some faces flushed with anger, others ignited with hope. Then there it was, a soft clap, barely audible at first, then growing louder. A younger team member, someone who had been overlooked until now, stood up. I'm with you, Malik, she said, her voice shaky but strong. We can't ignore what's happening outside these walls. Her courage was a spark that lit the path for others. One by one, more employees began to stand, expressing their support, each voice blending into a chorus of solidarity. But was it enough to shift the entrenched opinions at the top? Malik's heart raced, awareness dawning on him. This was only the beginning of what he needed to battle, and victory was far from guaranteed. As the meeting stretched on, Malik could feel the excitement of momentum build. Yet, shadows lingered in the background. What would the repercussions be for him, for those who dared to speak up? Could their collective noise be silenced again? The room, once a fortress of indifference, now teetered between change and resistance. Malik's eyes scanned the faces, feeling both hope and trepidation swirl within him. He knew the fight was far from over. But this was a moment, a crack in the foundation, the first step of an unfolding revolution. Even as cheers erupted around him, doubt whispered in his mind. Would it be enough to insulate them from the backlash that inevitably followed? He glanced at the door, wondering when the real battle would begin. What would happen when the supporters faced the wrath of the old guard? The questions swam like fireflies in his mind, leaving him with an urgent sense of purpose. There was no turning back now, he had to move forward. The very future was at stake. The clamor in the boardroom faded, but Malik felt like he was still riding the waves of adrenaline. People were rising around him, their faces a mix of anger and alliance. Their collective voices swarmed like a powerful tide, pressing against the walls of the established hierarchy. Keep talking, Malik. They need to hear this. Shouted a voice from the back. The enthusiasm was infectious, an echo of his mother's unwavering faith in him. He could almost see her nodding with approval, her gentle smile pushing him forward. As employees lent their voices in support, Malik caught the wary eyes of the senior executives. He knew they were assessing the backlash, calculating the damage to their polished images. The risk was real, and suddenly Malik felt that weight heavy on his shoulders. The lives of those who stood with him depended on this moment. Malik. Another voice called out, a familiar yet unexpected one. It was Carlos, a middle manager who typically kept to the shadows. What can we do? How do we change it? Malik took a breath, holding the gaze of his colleagues, their eyes sparkling with hope and apprehension. We need to start by amplifying employee voices, he said. We must form a committee and alliance where everyone can contribute their stories. Diversity at our ranks means we must embrace it at our core. The eyes around the room lit up. There was energy surging now. Malik felt electrified by the notion, the realization that they could create something bigger, something that might truly transform the environment. But just as hope began to swell, the senior executive who had challenged him earlier sneered, "You think a committee will change the tides? You underestimate the complexities of our company." "No, I think ignoring the problem is the risk we can't afford to take," Malik replied, keeping his voice steady. "What if we're not just a company? What if we become a movement? What if this becomes the corporate model everyone else looks up to? You can either keep resisting, or you can be on the right side of history." The room fell quiet for a moment, the senior executive's expression flickering with uncertainty. It was brief, but it was there a moment of recognition that they were at a crossroads. Malik could see some of his allies standing a little taller, a spark igniting their determination. This wasn't just a fight for inclusion, it was a push for dignity, a chance to write a new story. Yet as the applause began again, Malik felt a knot tighten in his stomach. Not everyone was supportive. What would happen when they walked out of this meeting? Were they ready to take on the backlash from their own leadership? "Every action has consequences," he murmured to himself, as he glanced around the room. The moment felt fragile, like a perfectly spun glass ornament. As the discussion wound down, Malik stepped to the forefront once more, the weight still heavy against his chest. "I know what we're asking for isn't easy," he shared, looking into the faces of those who had believed in him. "But what if we took the first step today?" Silence wrapped around the boardroom. Would they step onto that path of change, confront their fears? Then someone whispered, "What if it all falls apart?" The truth hung in the air, uncomfortable yet real. And as he stood there, Malik felt one question surge within him. What do we truly want? A fight that lasts only a day, or a battle for the future? With eyes wide open and hearts racing, they all felt the reality settle in. The challenge ahead would demand everything from them, but the fight was no longer Malik's alone. It had become theirs as well. As the boardroom filled again with a murmur of possibilities, Malik took a deep breath. Was this the beginning of a revolution for change, or simply another false promise? The moment crackled with potential, but the verdict was yet to be determined. Would they find the strength to push through the inevitable struggle ahead? The air was thick with anticipation, and for Malik, it was clear, the battle was just starting. Malik stepped down from the podium, the echoes of applause still swirling around him like a warm embrace. But the warmth could not hold back the chill of uncertainty gnawing at his insides. He looked around a kaleidoscope of faces, some filled with hope, others still wary. "Did you see that?" Carlos whispered, pride bubbling in his voice. "You really got through to them." "Yeah," Malik replied, forcing a smile. "But let us see how long that lasts. Actions speak louder." They began filing out of the boardroom, echoing voices and shuffling papers fading into the corridors. The weight of what lay ahead pressed down upon Malik. Meetings were easy from the safety of four walls. Reality would happen when they returned to their desks, when the executives, backed by tradition and power, pushed back. As people scattered, Malik caught sight of the senior executive from earlier, the one whose dismissive sneer had stung. He was followed closely by a few managers, their heads close together, speaking in hushed tones. Malik's heart raced. Was this the backlash starting? "Watch your back," Carlos murmured, sensing the tension. "They won't just let you walk away with this." Malik nodded, tension coiling tight in his chest. He made his way to the elevators, each step echoing in his mind a mixture of trepidation and resolve. What if it all fell apart? What if they lost their jobs? His thoughts spiraled, playing out the worst-case scenarios. The elevator dinged, and when the doors slid open, instinct drove him to take a breath before stepping inside. The air felt heavy, thick with the uncertainty of the journey ahead. Malik leaned against the wall, staring at the numbers flashing above. In that moment of isolation, he thought of his mother, her unwavering belief that courage is contagious. He longed for her reassurance. Today had ignited a flicker of possibility, yet tomorrow could snuff it out. Would the group still rally behind him when the winds of conformity began to howl? As the doors opened again, he stepped into the lobby, where whispers and glances darted through the space like shadows. The anticipation felt like a heartbeat, a collective pulse of fear and hope. "Malik," a voice called. It was Anita, a colleague of his who had always kept a low profile. Her voice trembled slightly, revealing her anxiety. "Can we talk?" They found a quieter corner beside the entrance. "What you said in there, it was powerful," she began, her hands clasped tightly in front of her. "But I'm scared. What if we lose our jobs for speaking up?" Malik nodded, seeing the fear mirrored in her eyes. "I know it's risky, but we can't let fear dictate our choices. It's easy to stay silent. The real challenge is to stand up when it matters." Anita took a deep breath, her eyes searching for courage. "I want to fight with you, but how do we keep the momentum? We can't leave it at just words." "Let us organize small meetings," Malik suggested. "Gather stories. Share experiences. Maybe start a petition. We need to show our leaders that we're more than just voices, we're a community that demands respect." Her expression brightened slightly, but a shadow of doubt still lingered. "And if they retaliate?" Malik felt the knot in his stomach twist tighter. "Then we fight back. We must be prepared for resistance. But each story, each connection will make us stronger." As they exchanged nervous but determined smiles, they both sensed the path ahead was loaded with obstacles. But maybe, just maybe, it could lead to something transformative. "Let us do it for each other, no one left behind," he said softly, inspired by the thought of solidarity among them. They stood there for a moment, feeling the weight of their shared decision. Yet, the uncertainty loomed larger than ever. Would their efforts result in unity or division? The thought lingered, echoing in Malik's mind as they stepped back into the thrumming world outside the building, ready to face what awaited them. As they walked away, a question bubbled beneath the surface: would they be able to turn their words into action before it was too late? Malik glanced at Anita as they stepped into the bustling street outside the office. The city hummed with life, but Malik's heart felt heavy. Each step they took was a mix of excitement and dread, a dance between possibility and the fear of the unknown. He could see determination brewing in Anita's eyes, yet he understood the hesitance that lingered. "Tonight, how about we start texting some people?" Malik suggested, trying to lift their spirits. "We can form our first meeting by the end of the week." Anita nodded, albeit tentatively. "Yeah, that sounds good. It feels empowering, somehow." Malik couldn't suppress a smile. "Exactly. We're not alone in this fight. We'll make sure everyone knows they have a voice." They walked in silence for a moment, absorbing the hustle of the world around them. Malik was grateful for Anita's presence, her fear mirrored his own, but they were now united in purpose. As they reached the bus stop, the weight of the conversation lingered in the air between them. Malik thought of the others who might join them, the faces he had seen in the boardroom. He imagined them surrounding a table, sharing their stories, their struggles, and collectively igniting a spark of change within the company. But just then, a familiar figure burst through his thoughts, the senior executive from earlier. The man was striding across the street, his posture rigid and severe. Malik's stomach dropped as he realized he was headed straight towards them. "Breathe," he whispered to himself, but the words hardly registered. "Malik," Anita muttered, her voice low, "is that?" "Yeah," Malik replied, his heart racing as he straightened up. The executive's demeanor was severe, and there was no doubt he had heard Malik's speech. "Good luck." A nervous chuckle escaped Anita's lips, but Malik could hear the unease layered beneath. As the executive approached, Malik steadied himself. Remember, we're here for each other. Exactly, Anita echoed, finding her voice. The executive stopped just in front of them, casting a piercing gaze. Malik, he said, his tone calm but icy. I hope you're ready for the consequences of your remarks today. Malik felt the heat rise in his cheeks, but he refused to flinch. I stand by what I said, he replied, trying to maintain his composure. We need to change. The executive's eyes flickered with surprise, then narrowed into a steely glare. Change doesn't happen overnight, he said, his voice dripping with condescension. And it certainly doesn't come from those who don't know their place. Malik could feel a wave of anger rising within him. His whole being ached to bridge the chasm of tradition with the hope of progress. That's where you're wrong, he shot back, finding confidence in his own voice. Change starts with a single step in the right direction. The executive looked taken aback. Malik noticed a brief flash of uncertainty before the man composed himself again. You've got a fire in you, Malik. But don't think for a second that the board will bow to your whims. Gather your little group, but know that I will be watching closely. With that, he turned sharply and walked away, leaving Malik and Anita behind, the air still crackling with tension. Wow, Anita breathed, her eyes wide. You stood your ground. Malik exhaled, a mixture of relief and adrenaline coursing through him. I couldn't let him intimidate me. We have to stand firm. Anita smiled, her courage rekindled by Malik's conviction. Let us do this, together. As they boarded the bus, Malik's mind raced with thoughts of how to rally those around him. Every face, every story mattered. Little did he know that the echo of their resolve would soon confront not just the boardroom's power dynamics but also the hidden truths buried deep within the company's culture. As the bus rolled away, an idea began to blossom in Malik's mind. What if they could expose not only challenges but also the hidden strengths of their community? With determination igniting a spark in him, he leaned towards Anita, excitement pooling in his chest. What if our stories could not just inspire change, but reveal the hidden potential we all have? Anita's expression shifted, a newfound intrigue in her eyes. You mean, like a showcase? But how? The question hung in the air, crackling with energy as they sat together in the dim light, the city flashing by outside. The journey had only just begun, and soon they would have to decide how to share their voices in a way that would resonate beyond the walls of their workplace. Would they have the courage to take that plunge? The bus jolted to a stop, and the doors hissed open, spilling fresh city air into the cramped space. Malik and Anita stepped off, their hearts pounding from the encounter and their brains buzzing with ideas. Let us find a cafe or something, Malik suggested, glancing around the bustling street, trying to shake off the senior executive's words. We can brainstorm how to flip our stories into something tangible, something powerful. Anita nodded, her eyes scanning the street before landing on a cozy cafe adorned with bright green plants and warm lights. That one looks good, she pointed. As they settled into a corner booth, with the smell of fresh coffee wafting through the air, Malik began to pace through their thoughts. Okay, so we need a plan. What if we start collecting stories? Maybe a video series? He leaned forward, animated. We could highlight our coworkers, showcase their challenges, and their victories. It might attract attention, inspire some empathy. Anita took a sip of her latte, thoughtful. Yeah, but gathering those stories will take trust. Not everyone's going to be open about their struggles, especially if they think they'll be risking their jobs. Malik nodded, feeling the weight of her words. True. We need to create a safe space not just for ourselves but for everyone involved. Maybe we launch an anonymous survey to gauge interest first. That could help us get a sense of who is willing to share. Great idea. Anita exclaimed. If we start small, maybe people will be drawn in by curiosity. They might even surprise us by opening up more than we expect. The conversation flowed easily, and Malik felt the tension from earlier begin to fade. Each idea they tossed around was a step closer towards something bigger, an enormous wave that felt possible to ride. But as the energy in the cafe pulsed with late afternoon life, Malik's thoughts drifted back to the executive's ominous warning. He couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking a precarious line. What if we face backlash? What if they try to silence us? Anita's face shifted, doubt crept in. I guess we'll just have to be careful and strategic. We can only control what we can. But if what we're doing really can spotlight those hidden strengths, people need to hear these stories. Malik felt a wave of gratitude wash over him. I'm really glad you're with me in this. I wouldn't want to do it alone. Me too, Anita replied, a sincerity in her eyes that made Malik's heart swell with hope. We're stronger together. As they plotted out the structure of their proposed showcase, a theme of resilience, strength, and unity, the atmosphere in the cafe was electric. The world outside seemed to fade, focusing all energy onto their mission. Just then, Malik's phone buzzed. He glanced down and saw a group message from someone in the office. Hey, I heard about today's meeting. Not sure if you're still thinking of doing what you were talking about, but count me in. A smile broke across Malik's face. One by one, voices were beginning to join their cause. It's happening, Anita, he said, barely containing his excitement. We're not just dreaming anymore, we're building a community. But just as Malik started to feel the tide shift positively, the cafe's door swung open, and in stepped the executive from earlier, his presence darkening the atmosphere around them like a storm cloud. Malik's heart raced once again. What would he do now? Stay calm, he whispered to Anita, his eyes locked on the approaching figure. The moment of truth loomed, and it began to feel clear that the real battle was just beginning. Malik's palms grew clammy against the table as the executive made his way over. The warm atmosphere of the cafe felt instantly colder, like the air had thickened with tension. Anita's fingers wrapped around her cup tightly, her eyes darting between Malik and the approaching figure. Hi, Malik. Anita, the executive greeted, his voice smooth yet filled with an edge. His presence demanded attention. Mind if I join you? Malik hesitated but nodded, forcing a smile. Sure, have a seat. The executive slid into the booth, and the warmth of camaraderie that Malik and Anita had soaked in moments before dissipated like morning mist. I heard some interesting ideas were brewing, he said, his eyes narrowing slightly as if sizing them up. Anita cleared her throat, shooting Malik a glance that mixed caution with resolve. We were just brainstorming how to create a platform for sharing stories within the team. We think it could foster a sense of community. Community, the executive leaned back, a smirk creeping onto his lips. That's an ambitious goal. But you must realize, involvement can come with risks, especially in our environment. His words felt like a punch. Malik's heart sank as the weight of the conversation shifted again. We're trying to create a safe space, to allow voices to be heard without fear, Malik managed to say, grounding his tone to convey conviction. Safe spaces are tricky in any corporation, the executive retorted, his eyes narrowing. You might find that openness isn't always met with open arms. People might lose their jobs over voicing too much. Malik's chest tightened, anxiety creeping in. He glanced at Anita, who bit her lip, contemplating her next words. We believe that speaking up is crucial, she finally said, her voice steady. It could help shine a light on the challenges many face. It's not just about individual stories, it's about bringing awareness to workplace issues that matter. The executive's gaze flickered with interest, maybe even respect. For a moment, Malik thought he saw a hint of understanding, but it quickly vanished behind a wall of indifference. Interesting perspective. Just remember, there's a fine line between raising awareness and causing unnecessary disruption. You have to tread carefully. And what if that disruption is needed for change? Malik countered, finding his voice. The fear simmered beneath his skin, but he couldn't back down now. The executive suppressed a chuckle, but it sounded hollow. Idealism is charming, Malik, but this is business. Remember that. With that, he stood up, leaving Malik and Anita in a cloud of uncertainty. What just happened? Anita whispered, her voice barely audible. Do you think he'll tell anyone about our idea? I don't know, Malik replied, feeling his hope teeter on the edge of a cliff. But something tells me he's watching closely now. Anita looked both determined and scared. We can't let that stop us. Her hand instinctively found Malik's. We've got to move forward. If we have the chance to start this, we have to take it. Malik squeezed her hand, grateful for her unwavering spirit. They were facing resistance, but even in the risk, their mission felt essential, like breathing fresh air after being submerged. Let us get that survey rolling, he said, a new fire mingling with the uncertainty inside him. Just as they were about to delve deeper into their plans, Malik's phone buzzed again. It was another message from their coworker, this time asking for a meeting to discuss their initiative. This could be it. More people wanting in, Malik grinned, relief washing over him. But if he's watching, we need to tread carefully and be ready for anything. Anita nodded, her determination shining through. And we'll do this together, no matter what. As they started drafting their next steps, the door to the cafe swung open once more. Malik's heart sank again as familiar faces appeared, those of some of the executives' allies from the company. They were walking in with smiles, but they looked ready for confrontation. Malik, what are you planning? The tension once again wrapped around them like a thick fog. Was this the beginning of their fight, or would it crush their dreams before they could even begin? Malik felt his heartbeat quicken as he glanced at the newcomers. The confident strides of the executive's allies sent chills through his spine. They weren't here for small talk. He could sense their intentions, and it wasn't good. Hey, Malik! One of them exclaimed, a smirk plastered across her face. We couldn't help but overhear you two talking about building a community. That's quite the ambition. Anita's grip on Malik's hand tightened. The room felt smaller now, their cozy corner of the cafe somehow transformed into a battleground. We're just brainstorming ideas, Malik replied, forcing his voice to remain steady. Trying to make a positive impact. Positive impact? Another ally chimed in, leaning closer. You know, that can be subjective. Especially if it disrupts the status quo. Malik couldn't ignore the underlying threat in her voice. He swallowed hard, feeling Anita's warmth beside him, a lifeline in rising seas. We believe everyone deserves a voice, he said, struggling to keep his tone firm. This isn't about disruption, it's about understanding and support. The trio exchanged knowing glances, clearly unamused. Support is great in theory, said the first ally mockingly. But what if it risks people's livelihoods? Are you prepared for the fallout? Malik stared at them, anger rising within him. They were using fear as a weapon, plucking at strings of uncertainty. Is that how corporate culture should work? By silencing those who want change? He stood taller, the urge to back down turning into stubborn defiance. Anita jumped in, her voice surprisingly strong. People are already suffering in silence. It's time to let them share their experiences without fear of consequences. The lead ally smirked again, this time with a hint of admiration. Courageous, I'll give you that. But you know this isn't the kind of talk that earns you points around here. It's a dog-eat-dog world. Malik's thoughts rushed. What if they were right? What if their idea failed before it even started? But then he remembered their late-night brainstorming sessions, shared laughter, and the hope for a better workplace. Maybe it's time someone changed the rules. We can be that difference. A sudden silence fell over the table. The air crackled with tension and something unspoken. The allies exchanged murmurs, eyes scanning for weaknesses, calculating risks. This was more than a conversation now, it was a test of wills. Fine, the lead ally said finally, shrugging casually. But if you're so determined to push boundaries, don't say we didn't warn you. We'll be watching, closely. Just like that, they turned and sauntered out of the cafe, leaving Malik and Anita in a suffocating silence. We need to act, and fast, Malik said, the weight of their words pressing heavily on him. If they're watching us, we have to show that we're serious. Agreed, Anita said, her brows knitting together in concentration. We need to rally support. More voices will make it hard for them to ignore us. As they leaned over their pages, drafting plans and strategies, Malik felt a mix of fear and fire igniting in his chest. Let us push ahead, he said, determination fueling every syllable. We need people to know what we stand for. But as they worked, Malik's phone buzzed yet again, its screen lighting up with a message. This time it was from someone unexpected, a coworker he thought would never take a stand. Are you serious about this? I want to help. His heart raced. Could this surprise ally be the key to gaining momentum? What do you think? Malik turned to Anita, his expression a mix of hope and uncertainty. Is this truly our moment to spark something big, or are we drawing even more attention from those who want to keep things the same? Anita met his gaze, her eyes wide with potential and fear. Whatever happens next, we need to be ready. This might be the push we've prayed for or the beginning of a much tougher battle. Malik took a deep breath, staring at the message again. Sometimes, change comes when you least expect it. What would they choose next? Malik's fingers hovered over the screen, a whirlwind of emotions racing through him. A part of him wanted to respond immediately, driven by excitement, but doubt nagged at him. Was this really a step forward, or a trap that would only tighten around them? Let us think this through, he said slowly, trying to ground himself. Do we know any of their motivations? What if they're just fishing for information? Anita frowned, tapping her pen against the table. Or what if they genuinely want to help? This could bring more voices into our fold. The more support we have, the stronger we become. Malik nodded, recognizing the truth in her words but still feeling uneasy. Okay, it's worth a shot. But we need to be strategic about this. He quickly typed out a message, summing up their vision and inviting this coworker to meet them the next day. What if they can't make the leap? Anita asked, her voice lowering. What if they're not ready to risk their safety for our cause? Then we'll keep looking, Malik responded. We'll find those who are ready to join. Change doesn't come from the comfortably complacent. It comes from those willing to take a stand, despite the risks. They spent the next couple of hours in a haze of brainstorming, their thoughts racing as they mapped out their community's mission. They jotted down ideas, from workshops to forums, all aimed at giving a platform to voices that had long been muffled. Hope flickered between them, igniting their resolve. Just as they began shaping a tactical plan, Malik's phone buzzed again. His heart sank when he saw the name flash across the screen. Kyle, another ally from work. While they had discussed the issues in passing, Malik had never pegged Kyle as someone likely to join them in their fight. Give me a minute, Malik said, staring at the message. Before he knew it, he replied. Interested in meeting about our plans? We could use someone like you. Moments later, a reply came through. I've been thinking a lot about what you said. Count me in. Malik shared the news with Anita, a surge of enthusiasm bubbling up within them. Each message reinforced the idea that they were building something real. As if sensing this shift, Anita's demeanor brightened. Tomorrow will be big, she said, a fierce determination glinting in her eyes. But we can't let our guard down. We still need a backup plan, in case this person turns out to be a double agent. Agreed, Malik replied, knowing deep down this wouldn't be easy. In a world that thrived on silence and complicity, they were aiming to shout the truth. They double-checked their notes, confirmed meeting details, and strategized their approach. Each step forward felt like stepping onto a tightrope, thrilling and terrifying at the same time. As they wrapped up for the night, Malik's thoughts continued to race. "Do you think we can really make a difference?" he asked, vulnerability seeping into every word. Anita crossed her arms, her expression softening. "If we don't try, we already know the answer. But if we do, who knows what could happen?" Malik swallowed hard, uncertainty intermingling with hope. They were now intertwined in a journey that felt monumental. As they prepared to leave the cafe, one final message popped up on Malik's phone. It was from the new ally he had reached out to. "Meet me at that park downtown. 3 p.m. Let's talk strategy, but be careful. I'm not the only one watching." His stomach dropped as he stared at the screen. "Looks like we're not the only ones gathering allies," he said, turning to Anita, fear creeping back in. "Do you think this is a setup?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Malik could feel the weight of their decisions pressing down on him. "Whatever it is, we have to be ready." As they stepped out into the night, the shadows seemed longer, the stakes higher. They were standing at the edge of something huge. And as fear licked at their heels, Malik couldn't shake the feeling they were being pulled deeper into a game far larger than themselves. "Are we prepared?" Anita's voice held tremors, blending anxiety with excitement. Malik took a deep breath, glancing at the dark path ahead. "I guess there's only one way to find out." Malik stood in the park, the late afternoon sunlight filtering through the trees, casting dappled shadows on the ground. His heart raced as he anticipated the arrival of his potential ally. He and Anita had spent the night crafting plans, exchanging ideas on how to build a movement that would amplify unheard voices in their workplace. But now, uncertainty loomed over him like a storm cloud. "Where do you think they are?" Anita asked, glancing around, her eyes reflecting nervousness. "Not sure. But I have a feeling we're being watched," Malik replied, his instinct alert to the tension in the air. Just as he spoke, a figure emerged from behind a tall oak tree. It was Kyle, appearing a little out of breath but with a determined look on his face. "Sorry I'm late," he said, catching his breath. "I had to take the long way to avoid the main street." A wave of relief washed over Malik. "You made it. We really appreciate you coming," he said, urging Kyle to sit on the bench beside him. "I've been following what's been happening, and to be honest, I'm scared," Kyle admitted. "But I know we can't stay silent anymore. I want to help." Anita leaned forward, her voice steady. "We want to create a space where everyone can share their experiences. A showcase, a series of stories that highlight the struggles and strengths of our co-workers. Are you with us?" Kyle nodded, determination shining through his fears. "Absolutely. But we need to be strategic. If we can gather enough support, it might just tip the scales in our favor." Malik's heart thumped with hope, the fire of possibility reigniting. "That's what we're thinking, a petition to show our leadership the demand for change. We have to take the stories outside of our little group and into the workplace." The conversation flowed, each idea building on the last. They envisioned interviews, short videos, and anonymous submission forms so people could share their stories without fear. The more they discussed, the clearer their vision became. But as the sunlight began to wane, Malik couldn't shake the feeling of impending danger. "We have to be prepared for backlash," he warned. "The executives will not take kindly to us challenging the status quo." Anita's hands trembled slightly, but her voice was steady. "Then we need to be ready with facts, data. We have nothing to fear if we can back up our claims." "Yes," Kyle said, his excitement bubbling as he added, "and if we can show that it impacts profitability, they'll have a reason to listen." But just then, Malik spotted movement in the distance. 3 of the executive's allies were walking towards them, their expressions unreadable. Malik's stomach twisted into knots. Hide the phones, he whispered, and the group quickly tucked their devices away. Let us not draw any more attention than we already have. The trio approached, a combination of skepticism and amusement dancing in their eyes. What are you three plotting? The lead one asked, feigning casualness. Malik steadied himself, squaring his shoulders as he met their gaze. We're just chatting about work-life balance, he said, voice steady despite the tension. It's good to see you all so engaged with company culture. Just remember, engagement can come with its own risks, the lead ally replied, a smirk playing on their lips. Malik felt a chill run down his spine. Thanks for the concern. But we're all adults here. Risk comes with growth, right? The allies exchanged glances, then turned to leave, but not without one last warning. We're watching. Don't think your little plans will go unnoticed. Once they were out of sight, Malik exhaled sharply, tension releasing like a pressure valve. That was too close, he said, wiping sweat from his brow. We need to move fast, Anita urged. Let us get our plans together, gather more voices, and present something compelling. The night deepened around them, but Malik felt a sense of clarity. Change was on the horizon, but it wasn't just about him anymore. It was about everyone who felt unheard, everyone who believed in the possibility of something better. They began to formulate a timeline, setting goals for their gathering of stories, planning their first push for the petition. Tomorrow, we start reaching out to more people. We can't stop now, Malik insisted, fervor igniting within him. Yes. Small steps, but steps nonetheless, Anita said, excitement intertwining with hope. But just as they rose to leave, Malik's phone buzzed again. Another message from their coworker. I'm in. I know others who want to support. This is going to be big. In that moment, Malik felt a rush of warmth flooding through him. They weren't standing alone anymore. This is our chance, he said, a smile breaking across his face as he looked at Anita and Kyle. We're ready to make our voices heard. We can do this together. As they walked away from the park, into the confrontation that awaited them, they began to feel the spark of transformation that had been ignited. Hope wrapped around them tightly, a shield against the shadows looming just beyond the light. Tonight was a seed planted in the soil of justice, ready to take root and grow into something powerful, something that could not be ignored. And so it began, the journey of a movement months in the making, ready to challenge the very heart of their corporate landscape. Yet in this moment of unity and strength, one truth rang clear: change would demand everything, but it was worth every sacrifice. Now it's your turn. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that unfold from this journey. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and spread the message of courage and change. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about Malik's journey. You need to let us know. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who are ready to be inspired and take action. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second. Only true fans understand the importance of rallying behind the movement for change.